All right, so hello and welcome to Sci-Fi-Night Tipsy Talk. Most people watching this already will know that it's just a sort of non-scripted, offbeat discussion about different topics. We're doing X-Files Season 11 right now, and we have our very first guest. Those of you who know the show already know him as well, though. Joseph Ari of Sci-Fi Channel, the same name. Thank you for being the first guest on Sci-Fi-Night Tipsy Talk.
Glad to be here.
And you've been an X-Files fan for quite a bit as well.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. I think I should give you my brief history with the show. When I was, I think, around 5 or 6 years old, that was the time when it originally aired. And my brother, who's 3 years older than me, exposed me to it. It was the most disgusting, most terrifying thing I've ever seen. I was afraid of it. But I watched it because it was a cool thing to do. And I think it really got me into sci-fi and horror. Yeah, that was the thing. I'm gonna hang up on you on Facebook. But I wasn't a huge fan of the later seasons, like season 8 or season 9, when they pretty much got rid of Mulder. I always thought that was a bit of a bummer. And then they did the second film. I think it was called Beyond the Truth.
No, it's called I Want to Believe.
Right. I Want to Believe. Really didn't like it. And then I was really excited when they announced that they were going to bring the show back with the original cast and all. And Chris Carter, the guy who created it to begin with, when they released season 10, it was 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2016.
Yeah. And to be honest, I was mostly disappointed.
Most people were. I mean, even me, who was, as like I made clear in a couple episodes, I'm a very forgiving X-Files fan. Like, not to the point where I think the Killer Cat episode is good. Like, everyone hates that one, but like, even I was pretty disappointed with season 10. I did like episodes 3 and 4. But like the mythology in itself is pretty ridiculous. And episode 5, the one with the suicide bomber, it was...
Oh yeah, that was really weird. That like Mulder doing drugs and being all trippy, dressed up like a cowboy. That was vanity. Like, I don't have a problem with funny X-Files, and we will get to that.
Yeah,
I think
like this episode.
in a second. But that was just weird. That wasn't funny. That was just off-putting. And
the opening of the episode was so like pretty dark and violent, with people like running out of that art gallery on fire and stuff. It sets up this really grim tone, and then cut to Mulder on mushrooms and this like
yeah,
yeah, ridiculous.
And what I really hated about season 10 was the way they treated the mythology, because I know most people by now tend to care more about the Monster of the Week episode. I get that. I think I'm on the same page here, but part of me still really cares about the mythology, and I think they really screwed it up big time in season 10. Now let's get to the point. Season 11.
First episode. The turn the mythology has taken in season 11, because they went for quite a few "I am your father" kind of moments.
I hated it.
Literally.
I hated it. I hated what they did with season 10, and I continue to hate what they do in season 11. The only episode that I really liked, like from beginning to end, in these last two seasons, was the one with that sort of garbage guy killer that came alive.
Yeah, episode 4, Home Again. Yeah, that was, I really like that one too.
That felt like an original X-Files case. Mulder and Scully investigating, and I like that. In general, I'm glad that they brought back the cigarette-smoking man, but it doesn't make sense, okay? If you're gonna bring someone back, it has to matter. There has to be some meaning behind it. By now, from the way I see it, is that he literally burned down to ashes, and then they just brought his ashes to the hospital, and he's okay now.
They brought a skeleton.
Yeah, that's not how this works. Even for X-Files standards, that's that's stretching it. But okay.
Fair, if they do reveal that he's a super soldier, the super soldiers could get burned down to just like the spine and then reform themselves after that. So
they even brought back Spender, and now he only has a scar. Last time we...
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ. Like the last time we saw Agent Spender in the original series, he looked like somebody's asshole.
Yes, exactly. It was when people were thinking that was Mulder, right?
Yeah.
And they had to do the whole DNA test, and it turned out that they were somewhat related, right?
It's because they're both the Circus Monkey Man's son.
Exactly. And yeah. And now he's also... So he's Mulder's father, but he's also Mulder's son's father, because Mulder's not really the father anymore.
Game of Thronesy.
Yeah, it's weird as hell. So I guess let's get to the point of that.
Those few who are unaware, Tipsy Talk entails that we got a little bit of a buzz on to keep ourselves as unfiltered and unscripted as possible. However, we did take some notes watching the episode just to make sure we don't forget anything.
Oh, I really didn't.
Okay, good. Well, I did. So, all right. So this was X-Files season 11, episode 4, titled "The Lost Art of Forehead Sweat."
Yeah.
The name just rolls right off the tongue. Written and directed by Darren Morgan, who actually wrote my favorite X-Files episode, Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose, and did a lot of really good comedy episodes. He did the only other episode that I liked of season 10, which was episode 3, Mulder and Scully Meet the Weremonster. I actually thought that one was pretty funny. And this is a comedy episode as well, of course. Starts off with kind of a Twilight Zone-y sort of opening, very sort of cheesy, over-the-top, black and white. Mm-hmm. And this is basically about the Mandela effect. And how it can pertain to alternate dimensions. I'm assuming people who are watching this have either seen the episode or don't care if it's spoiled. The Mandela effect
spoiler alert, everyone. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the Mandela effect is a real life thing, so it's not made up. And it was actually something that I researched a little bit. There's a lot of things. I actually identified with a few smaller brand name things. Of people who have experienced the Mandela effect. Now, most of this is probably just people misremembering, but basically it gets its name from the fact that there's a sizable minority of people who have this memory of Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 80s, and seeing it on TV. Of course, he died a free man in 2013, but there's other small things like people remembering movies that shouldn't exist, like a movie called Shazam with Sinbad, the comedian, which...
The most hilarious thing is about that, that movie does actually exist. They played a lot with that. Both these movies that they mentioned exist, and I know both of them. I know both of them, yes! So they did play with that idea a little bit. I was like, Mulder named both of these movies. I was like, wait a second, I know both of them. So,
there we go. But is it on IMDb?
I'm not 100% certain. I don't want to look up. I don't want to look it up now because it might mess up the quality of that conversation. I don't want to cut out. So, but I'll do it later on, and I'll write.
Now, full disclosure, it's not on IMDb.
Oh, really? But there is a similar movie with Sinbad playing a genie-type character. Maybe it's not called Shazam or something, but there is a film like that. It does exist. And
I just confirmed the Mandela effect.
Yeah. Or they also gave it another name. The effect always changed throughout the episode.
Exactly, yeah. And so let's just run the plot a bit more. Mulder gets contacted by this guy who claims to be an old partner.
Yeah.
This really weird-ass dude who he calls it a Mengele effect, because in their dimension, it basically comes down to alternate dimensions and things being similar but also kind of different. And there's this Dr. They who did these experiments on aliens and I guess used that technology to make people forget things or misremember things. It all basically comes down to X-Files themselves. It all gets super self-referential. I wrote down some of the references. We'll bring that up in a little while. But comes down to, in this alternate dimension, the X-Files are solved. The aliens give them this book with all the answers, and it's just called All the Answers, and the X-Files get shut down. And then it turns out that this guy who they take him to an insane asylum.
Yeah.
Plot twist, then Skinner comes out and is like, hey, what are they doing with Reggie?
Yeah, and don't you think it's hilarious that his name is Reggie somebody?
Yeah, I love that when we did the new intro to this alternate dimension X-Files.
Yes.
That was fucking hilarious.
Okay, there were some things that I genuinely loved about this episode, and there were some things that just annoyed the living shit out of me. Once again, this time I will address the negatives first, because overall I had a good time with that episode. But I think I want to get the negatives out of the way, and they're very similar to the issues you've had with the pilot of this season. And that is that they really push their own politics on us once again. And I get it. It's funny, and the way politics is going in the US at the moment, it is kind of a joke. We all see it. But come on. That was not clever satire.
No, really
that was
like when they were looking at the end, like when he said the whole "we're going to build a wall in space," I was like, okay, that's kind of stupid, but I actually kind of chuckled at it. I was like, okay, that's kind of silly. But
honest to God.
But then he continues, like, and word for word quotes Donald Trump, like with
I know
the rapists and drug dealers, and it's just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous.
I know, and I was like, come on, this is not clever anymore. If you're gonna be political, if you're gonna have political satire, be clever about it. This is such an old joke, and it's done. It's been done to death. I get sick and tired from it. Okay, I can't anymore. But these are the only negatives that I really have with the with this episode. It's the politics, because in general, I don't like politics in entertainment unless it's supposed to be in there, because I really try to distinguish these two, which is why on my channel I never get political. I'm really happy if people don't know my political affiliation, because I believe it's part of my privacy, and I don't want to influence people, and I don't...
Alert, he's a Scientologist.
Yes. But in general, I don't like that, and which is why I don't get political on my channel. I don't like it.
Yeah, same here. I'll make some joke here and there, but nothing too serious or even really like properly relevant. Like a lot of my stuff mostly ambiguous.
Of course. I mean, but this is entertainment. This is fun. Let's get back to the X-Files. So yeah, that was my main issue with this episode. Other than that, I gotta say it was kind of hilarious.
Yeah. This was by far my favorite episode so far.
It
was really. But then again, my favorite episode of last season, also written and directed by Darren Morgan. My favorite episode.
Really? The were monster thingy?
Yep. That was also written and directed by him.
I don't know. I like this one a lot better, actually. Yeah, first of all, I was kind of hoping, and it didn't turn out to be like that, but when I saw the intro, that very Twilight Zone-ish intro in black and white, I was kind of secretly hoping that the entire episode would be like that. And
well, they did a black and white episode back in season...
Yeah, Postmodern Prometheus, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the most hilarious thing is today I talked to my buddy on the phone every day. On my way to work, we talk on the phone because we don't get to see each other that often because he's a dad now. And we spoke about the X-Files and how it's kind of not what it used to be anymore. I told him that I'm fine with funny episodes, and I always love it when shows try out something new. And I mentioned one of my favorite episodes, which is... because I don't even remember all the episodes.
Alright, so yeah, anyway, so with Scream Twilight Zone, it turns out it's supposed to be a Twilight Zone episode, and what I love is that, like, afterwards Mulder comes back, and he's got a verb for, like, going Bigfoot hunting, squatching.
Squashing something?
Yeah, because Sasquatch, so
yeah,
squatching. I mean, it's just such a Mulder thing. It really makes him out to be a nerd, like, because a lot of times, like, in X-Files episodes, he's, like, kind of a cool guy. Like, he's super nerdy, but also kind of cool in a way. And in all of Darren Morgan's episodes, he's always really silly. Like, I mean, like not really cool nerdy. He's just kind of nerdy, or at times even kind of a douchebag. And so I knew that was coming. And what I liked too was how wonderfully cute and romantic they were. Scully is like, "So what about dinner?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're going to dinner together."
I still totally ship them. But can I be 100% honest? Even though I ship them, I always thought their relationship was more fascinating when it was something unspoken. You know? When they just gazed at one another or had a little dance at the end of an episode. When they didn't fully commit to it, but everyone already knew the tension is just there, ready to explode. That's just the way I see it. But speaking of meta jokes, references, and being very self-aware, I'm a huge fan. I'm a sucker for meta humor, which is why one of my all-time favorite comedy shows is Community. And this episode, without going into detail, because a few weeks ago I told you to start watching Fringe, this episode was not pulling their punches when it came to Fringe, seriously.
Oh, yeah?
Without going into... I'm not going to spoil it, but you guys out there, if you've seen Fringe, you probably know what I'm talking about right now. It was hilarious. And I gotta love the bit where they re-edited some of the classic moments from earlier seasons of the X-Files with Reggie.
Yeah. When Reggie's like when Toombs is walking by and he's just like, ooh, that guy's really creepy.
Or when Scully first meets Mulder, what's up, sugar boobs?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was actually, and I love how they got the lighting down really well. I mean, it's like, obviously they do some form of green screen implosion and stuff like that, but they got the lighting down really well, so it just looked so like natural in a way.
Yeah.
I just really love the way they made it look. Like it really was this alternate dimension version of the X-Files. What I loved as well was when Reggie was talking about how he got there, and they go through these different stages of his work, like from something like to the IRS to something, and it's just like
waterboarding a guy. What?
And then they get to when he's working for the CIA, and he's just like typical waterboarding a guy.
Yeah, when he was waterboarding that dude, I was like, holy, that was hilarious once again.
That was perfect political humor, like without going over the top like we did later on.
Exactly. That was still somewhat nuanced and funny. And, biggest spoiler alert of the episode. We finally know where Mulder got his poster from.
Yeah, exactly. It was Reggie that gave it to him all this time. And I guess Reggie who gave him the sunflower seed thing, because throughout the original series, Mulder's always eating sunflower seeds.
Yeah, true. I didn't catch that.
Yeah, in the beginning when we first meet Reggie, he's standing in the parking lot eating these sunflower seeds.
True. Oh my god.
I guess.
How did I not catch that?
To clarify is that like we got the dynamic we have here is that you're a little bit more, since you haven't really rewatched the series as much recently and stuff like that. Like I'm a little bit more into like the deep nerdy reference kind of stuff, where you're got a little bit more of the like everyday perspective.
Yes.
And this episode had a lot of references. First of all, in Mulder's apartment, the thing that tips him off is a taped X on his window. That was the way that he used to contact his second informant, Mr. X. And then at the end, when we're taking him to the mental institution, it's Spotnitz Sanitarium. That's a reference to Frank Spotnitz, who was one of the writers on X-Files.
See, I didn't catch that. But the sunflower bit, I should have been able to catch. So that kind of pisses me off right now. I feel stupid now.
Well, this was one hell of an episode to feel stupid for, though, because like there was a lot of like stuff going on. Like when you're trying to figure out who, like alternate dimensions, what's happened, like who is this Dr. They? I mean, they do explain it, and I guess as satisfactory as you can in such a flimsy scenario.
Yeah, but in general, I don't think an episode like like this one, particular needs any answers. You can clearly see that they're just goofing around, that they're just having a blast, because I think part of the fun, part of the humor comes from the fact that it gets more convoluted and bizarre as the plot progresses. It gets a hell of a lot more convoluted when you see the backstory, the different government intelligence agencies that this guy's worked for, and this weird ass doctor, all of it, you know, it's supposed to confuse you, and that's kind of the beauty of it.
Yeah, and also one way they can tell that this is a Darren Morgan episode is that the dialogue is just like a touch above what it usually is. Like I love when he's got his theory about parallel dimensions and stuff like that. And then once he explains it, he's like, "That's science, Scully. You can't argue with that." It's like he's got this way of like, "I know you're always thinking I'm a crackpot, but this is an actual scientific theory. So actually listen to me this time." Like it's got these little extra little nooks and like when we're talking about how the United States invaded Grenada because of this alien thing, and Scully's like, "No, that's not why they invaded Grenada." I was like, "Well, why did they?" And she's like, I'm not sure. Marxism, and it's like it was also such a good line because like nobody really knows half the reasons why some of these countries are being invaded. And it's like, hey, covering up an alien conspiracy is just as good a guess as any.
Yeah. Again, that was some of the clever political humor, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if like Darren Morgan just started smoking crack towards the end of a writing process.
Yeah. But in general, this is episode 4 now, right? Mm-hmm. So we got 6 more episodes.
Yeah.
Including one final Mythology one, because I heard that this is now definitively the final season.
Well, the final season was Scully.
But Chris Carter now confirmed recently that he's not going to continue without Gillian Anderson.
Okay, well, there we go. I guess they gotta wrap it up now. Then I don't know if they're gonna do any reshoots or anything like that. Hopefully that won't be needed. But I just don't really look forward to the end Mythology bit. It looks like the Mythology has been bleeding into the other episodes as well, though. Partially, at least being referenced in the previous episode.
In season 10, the topic their son always came up, and I think that we got a first glimpse at him in this season, in the pilot of this season, My Struggle Part 3.
Did you see the trailer for next week's episode?
No, I didn't. I literally called you the moment I was done with this episode, still scratching my head over that last shot, but I guess that's what was supposed to happen. But, yeah, again, one episode to tie up all loose ends with a mythology. I'm not holding my breath for that one. But what I really want to see is another creepy-ass original X-File. Okay,
let me just put it this way. Watch the trailer for next week's episode. Because that's... I don't even want to spoil your viewing of the trailer, but Monster of the Week.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm down for that, because you kind of convinced me when I watched your top 10 favorite episodes of the X-Files. I was like, you know what, he's actually right. The Monster of the Week episodes are better. Basically because I think they went overboard at some point in time. They kind of started to ruin the mythology, which was amazing at the beginning. But Monster of the episodes were the ones that felt like they were putting the most effort into.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they should have ended the mythology in season 6, where
he got closer.
They killed the syndicate, because that's when like the alien rebels end up burning all the colleagues and allies of the Secret Smoking Man. He survives, but they all die. And I'm like, that's where they should have ended, or what they should have done there is like, okay, the syndicate, the whole alien plot is over. Now it's a Cigarette Smoking Man sort of picking up, sort of doing his own thing, kind of like how the cartels, when they took all the bosses, these little splinter groups, came forth, and they had no one to control them. Like, okay, well now we've got this guy who's had this much power, but he's been controlled by the rest of the syndicate. Now he's like the dictator. He can do whatever he wants, and he's got some revenge on mine. Like, I thought that's the direction we should have gone, but they went through the whole super soldier thing, and like they barely had the cigarette smoking man in the last or in seasons 8 and 9, and the super soldier thing just wasn't at all as interesting. It worked kind of in season 8, but towards season 9 it was just that it fizzled out completely.
Yeah, I mean, from what I heard, and this may all be rumor, originally it was planned to end the X-Files show with season 6.
And what was planned was that they were gonna do the first 5 seasons and then end with a movie. But then Fox wanted 2 more seasons, so they had to actually rewrite the movie so that they didn't end everything there.
And then they continued to pull stuff out of their asses, basically.
Yeah. That said, though, I really love season 8.
Season 8 is the one where they search for Mulder, right?
Yeah. The first 2 episodes is about search for Mulder, and then about Scully sort of coming to terms with him being gone and her picking up the sort of paranormal mantle and taking over, but she tries to explain it with science. And I really liked that sort of character turn for her, that character arc where she went from a skeptic to being like, there's several points in season 8 where she's like trying to explain it, and you can see how she's like, oh my god, I hear how this sounds, but I've fucking experienced this. I've seen dudes stretch through walls and stuff like that. And you can see it in her facial expression how she's like, oh man, this is how Mulder felt. Like, goddamn, this is not easy. And I loved that.
Again, I was hooked when season 8 kicked off, because back then, and again, you need to know, I only saw the entire show once, and that was back when it originally aired. So that's ages ago. Yeah. But what really stuck with me were those first couple episodes where they were hunting for Mulder, because I really wanted some resolution there. It literally killed me, and when I don't know what exact episode it was, but there was one episode that ended with him on the alien ship being experimented on, and that image got stuck with me.
Yeah, that's the end of episode 1 of season 8.
Wow. Yeah, that's
how you start a season.
Yeah, and I was so glad that they did bring him back eventually. So, because, I mean, it's not the X-Files without Mulder. Even though I kind of started to like Agent Doggett. And personally, I wouldn't mind him guest starring in one of the upcoming episodes. He probably won't, but I wouldn't mind.
Shooting commitments with this other show he's doing called Scorpion or something like that. But it would be nice if just a cameo, something, just to show where he's at now or something.
Especially, I mean, spoiler alert once again, but we've been over this. Monica Reyes is now evil. Mm-hmm. How would Doggett react to that?
Yeah, exactly. And she was in love with Doggett in season... It came out, I think, towards the end of season 8. And that would put a pretty interesting spin on things. It would make her question all her allegiances. It would devastate Doggett. It would be a pretty good turn for the mythology. Like, get away from all the big grand stuff. Let's focus on the characters. There is an interesting character twist.
Exactly. I think character in general is generally more interesting than plot. Yeah. Which is why, once again, I know, off topic, but start watching Fringe. And you guys out there, have you seen Fringe? Really interesting. Let us know in the comment section below.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was... Did you have any final thoughts on the episode? Aside from that, it was both of our favorites so far.
Yeah, I think it was the best episode of the season so far, but kind of by default. I know you are very forgiving when it comes to the X-Files, and I'm okay with that. I have some shows that I love that are so dear to my heart that I can be very forgiving to. X-Files, I really want to rewatch it. Currently, I have this buddy who's never seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Angel, and we're watching both of these shows right now. And once we're done, we're gonna rewatch all of the X-Files. And I think then I'll be able to give my general updated thoughts on the whole thing. But I have fond memories of the original run.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more about that, and I think you'll be pretty pleased, because what I noticed when I rewatched it is that some of the '90s stuff is definitely there, especially the hair and clothes and stuff like that, and some of the effects aren't the hottest, but in general, it holds up pretty well. Like, the parts that are creepy are pretty damn creepy, and some of what they got away with on like network television of the '90s is impressive. Like what they could actually show and get away with, and some of the stories that they told, and some stuff is just heartbreaking. And yeah, I mean, there's a reason it's got such a strong following that brought it back like 15 years later.
Of course, I mean, look, again, watching Buffy right now, and I mean, the special effects, especially during the first couple seasons, horrible. Okay. Did not age well at all. Well, never were great to begin with, but the character development is so fucking strong that you forgive the poor special effects. You know, character. I care more about character-driven arcs than some random creatures that I couldn't care less about.
Yeah.
So I think that about sums up my thoughts for this episode. I thought it had some really clever laughs. It was really self-referential. The meta bits got to me, liked them. The political aspects, some of them worked, some of them just really didn't for me personally. But all in all, I had fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, same here, but this is definitely the best episode by default. I did enjoy the previous episode with evil twins and stuff like that. Not great, but definitely at that point it was the best episode so far. This one takes it by a lot more. Actually, this is by far the best episode.
Yeah.
And there was just a lot of stuff that I really liked. A lot of the references. I really love that one. To go back to that alternate dimension X-Files. In that episode with the killer cats, and Reggie's like, "Oh man, if this is killer cats, I'm gonna be really disappointed." And I just laughed out loud at a point, because that is like one of the worst episodes. And the fact that they can look back and laugh at themselves like that, it was just really great.
Yeah, and also that they changed up the intro bit, you know?
Yeah.
with him so obviously being edited into it was hilarious. Also, where they zoom into their FBI IDs, and it actually says Fox Mulder instead of David Duchovny, or
Scully, and then Reggie something.
Yes, that is just hilarious. That is the kind of stupid humor that really works for me.
Yeah, and I'd say that at least 85% of what they threw really stuck. Like that whole alternate dimension X-Files, the whole Grenada thing, and Reggie's work at the government, and just a lot of the stuff I thought really worked. And the very final scene where Scully, she doesn't eat the jelly because she's like, I want to remember how it was.
Yes.
That's
kind of sweet.
Suddenly sweet, and suddenly kind of deep.
Yeah. No, it's true. Because I had a similar experience with a chocolate pudding that I used to love as a kid. And I finally found it again. I was really hesitant to try it. Because I was like, oh, is this going to taste like I remember it? Luckily it did. But for a second there, I was like, So, don't want to ruin my childhood memories, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that's a lot of what the human element of this episode was at, where, because obviously the whole thing of the X-Files is, I want to believe, that's always been Mulder's thing. And where Dr. Day is like, well, people only believe what they want to believe. And like, well, that's Mulder's whole thing. Like, and maybe he isn't really looking for the truth. Maybe he is just kind of looking for what he wants to be out there. And maybe that's what we all are. We're always not accepting the truth. We're kind of like forming the truth that we want. And we're remembering things the way we want to remember them, not necessarily the way things are. And that's the little deep touch Darren Morgan's writing all of these sort of strikes with every story. And it was a great way to end the episode on. I felt really sweet, like you said.
Yeah, just one final question I got. I will have to direct that at you because you're such an X-File buff. You know all the lore, all the characters, all the episodes. So, this season in particular, and season 10, Scully and Mulder were pretending like, oh, the truth is still out there, and there was one particular episode where Mulder stopped believing in the supernatural and all of it, and they were trying to find some logical explanations for all of it. But doesn't that kind of contradict the original show because they actually experienced it?
It does, but then, I mean, if you're gonna go by the context of the mythology of like a lot of stuff being fake and man-made, I guess in some way it kind of makes sense that Mulder would question what's actually real and not real and how much we've been led to believe and stuff. But then at the same time, it's like I can buy some of the UFOs not being like that's man-made structures using alien technology. Totally buy that, but like the fucking fluke man, the worm, half mutant thing in the sewers that like kill people. No way, nobody's faking that.
Yeah, or
vampires. Nobody's faking that. People were fucking drained of blood.
Mulder was kidnapped by aliens, and there were alien duplicates that looked just like Mulder.
Yeah, the shape-shifting alien bounty hunter, and like whenever the skin got punctured and toxic gas came out, like you can't fake that stuff.
And Mulder died and came back to life.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, and again, I've only seen the show once, but if I remember correctly, they brought him back, and he was dead, but they kind of cured him.
Yeah, they had to bring him back a certain way, because that's the thing, that certain alien abductees, the first was Billy Miles, who was in the very first episode. He came back, and then he wasn't brought back the right way, so he became sort of like this alien-controlled thing, and so when Mulder came back dead, they had to like freeze him down or something like that and kill the alien virus first before he came back to life.
Yeah, and again, going through that process, wouldn't that kind of wouldn't that make believing unnecessary? I mean, by now you know.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I guess it goes back to like the thing that everybody would say about Scully in the first couple of seasons, where it's like, oh, you just saw ghosts, like why aren't you believing in this? And if you're gonna go by the FBI sort of medical technical stuff, just because I've seen this alien, that doesn't mean that everything out there is also real. That explains Sully's skepticism of it.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. It was just something that was on my mind, and I really wanted to ask an X-Files expert.
Yeah. Well, there's also been several points in the original run where Mulder kind of loses his faith, and there's times where he hasn't been the one believing, but Scully has. That's usually when it comes to those religiously based episodes. Always. So it's not completely new. There was actually a part of Mythology in, I believe it was season 7, where Mulder stopped believing because he got this informant who gave him some fake information that contradicted a lot of what he had found.
Okay. Well, there you have it, guys.
That was it. That's our nice and flimsy, tipsy talk about X-Files Season 11, Episode 4, The Lost Art of Forehead Sweat.
Yeah, what did you guys think of the episode?
Let us know in the comments below, and what you think of the season so far. They did drop a mid-season trailer, 3 minutes long.
Wow, really?
Oh yeah. You should watch that too. They show a lot of interesting stuff that looks pretty exciting. Especially, they've shown quite a bit of a next episode, which is a Monster of the Week episode, and has some pretty cool looking effects from what we've seen so far. Let us know what you think of upcoming episodes. Was this also your guys' favorite? Because I know that this was the best reviewed episode of this season so far from mainstream news outlets. But maybe people liked the Evil Twin episode more. Let us know in the comments below. Joseph Ari, thank you so much for stopping by. I don't think it'll be the last time.
No, it definitely won't. Thanks for having me. I've had a blast, as always. It's such a warm and cozy place, your channel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you got a special chair in it. It's got your groove in it. It's like if I sit there, it doesn't fit my body shape, so...
Thank you.
Yeah. Alright, so I guess we're going to continue downing our frosty beverages. And thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Take care.